The last pandemic was a horror. It wasn't just that lots of people were getting sick, but the social media companies were punishing people who talked openly about it, kicking them off platforms, censoring them. Also, many countries shut down, schools closed, yelling was all over the place. People could not travel, tourism disappeared, the entire world culture was turned upside down. All because of one single virus. Now let's think about this. Do you really think that the last pandemic will be the last pandemic? Currently, a lab leak is considered a likely cause of the last pandemic, and Farsight was one of the first groups who identified that in one of our major projects, showing how it happened. Well, if that is the case, do you think that everything is now cleaned up in the research communities? Do you know how many researchers are involved in studying viruses of all types? Zillions in companies, universities, institutes, and governments. And do you know how many governments are involved in funding research into viruses of all types? Now, I am not against doing research when it is done competently, but just consider the numbers. What do you think are the chances that every researcher and every organization and government is handling all of their virus research and activity with complete competence? The mainstream media likes to project the image that scientists know what they are doing and that they know what they are talking about. But the amount of censorship that occurs in the mainstream communities, scientific, governmental, media, and popular, indicate that the information that is easily available to the public about virtually all sensitive topics is very tightly controlled. Now, the UAP or UFO debates are good examples of this. Official sources try to keep information from you, all of you. They want you to sit in your chair and not question what officialdom of any type wants to do. They want you to play dumb, and they want you to accept it. Well, logic states that there will be a next pandemic. There are approximately 8 billion people on this planet, and it only stands to reason that eventually a new virus will make a muck of things. That is not in dispute. The real question is whether the next pandemic will be a naturally occurring thing or whether incompetence in the scientific and governmental sectors will be responsible for it. With so many zillions of researchers out there, do you really think that each one of them is totally competent and will not make a mistake? And when was the last time you considered the idea that any government will not make a mistake? So with this new Farsight project, we decided to take a look at the next pandemic. We want to know how it will start and what will happen once it takes hold. And we want to know about the people involved. Again, there will be a next pandemic. The only question is how it will start, and will it be a naturally occurring thing or something triggered by people who should have known better? Now, if incompetent people start a new pandemic, they will tell you that it was a naturally occurring thing, and governments will hop on that bandwagon, at least initially. So you can't trust what official people tell you. But there is more. We also want to know if there is any extraterrestrial involvement in the triggering of the next pandemic. We have long known that the group who we call the bad ETs like to keep humanity in a constant state of chaos and turmoil so as to keep everyone from focusing on other issues, like the reality of the bad ETs. So we want to know if any of the ETs are involved in the triggering and management of the next pandemic. And friends, we found out. We found out everything. And now you are going to learn what we found out. I am Courtney Brown, Director of Farsight. At Farsight, we study the perceptual process known as remote viewing. Remote viewing is a mental process that is done using highly structured methodologies that are derived from those developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. But Farsight is civilian, and we use remote viewing for scientific experiments and for exploration. This new project conducted at Farsight employs remote viewers who are among the most experienced and highly trained viewers existing today. The remote viewers all describe much the same thing, all corroborating reports, and it is worth emphasizing that the remote viewing was done totally blind, and none of the remote viewers communicated with one another about the project during the data collection phase. Even their final presentations on video were recorded with no one else in the room. This is not science fiction, told through riveting remote viewing, conducted under defendable, clean scientific conditions. This is as real as it gets. And friends, I want to remind you that Farsight is data-driven. We show you our raw data. We show you how we collect our raw data. We have become experts in utilizing a very novel form of information gathering, and we use that to bring you information that you can get from absolutely nowhere else. The mainstream is all he said, she said junk. People who call themselves reporters go out and interview other people who tell the reporters stuff, and then the reporters get in front of cameras and tell the world that what they heard is the truth because they heard it from an official somebody. But it is rarely the truth. This he said, she said reporting process leaves the mainstream media open to blatant manipulation. People tell reporters what they want the reporters to report, and bureaucracies, politicians, and just about everybody knows how to manipulate gossip-hungry reporters. So what about Farsight? Again, we are data-driven. It took many years for us at Farsight to be able to do what we do, but we do it well. And through our many projects, we give you a window into reality that you cannot get from anywhere else. Now, every remote viewing project has a target. The target is that which serves as the focus of attention for the remote viewers. Now, remote viewers obviously do not know the target when they do their work. At Farsight, absolutely all work is done under totally blind conditions. Even when they record their videos as the last stage of their work, the remote viewers are totally alone in the studio. They are told the target and the nature of the project only after all of their work is completed. Now, for this project, the target is the next major pandemic to affect the Earth's human population. The goal of the project is to determine the nature and origin of the next major pandemic to affect Earth's human population. The source should be both the physical origin of the pandemic and any relationship that may exist between the pandemic spread and the ET control of the Earth as a prison planet. Now, there are three focuses in this target. The first focus is the subject, subject A, who is first to be infected with the disease that will become the next major pandemic on Earth's human population. This is the so-called subject 0. Now, the second focus is the origin of the disease and how it is introduced to the Earth population. And the third focus is any extraterrestrial connection to the disease event. And finally, we turn our attention to the ultimate supervisor of the disease event, whoever that may be. Now, I know this is a lot to remember, but you can relax. We will put up text on the screen to remind you of what each remote viewer is working on. But remember, when you see this text, the remote viewers are all doing their work totally blind to the target. So you will know what they are perceiving, but they will not know what you know. And at the end of every remote viewing session, we tell the remote viewers what the target is, and you get to see their reactions. It's fun and educational to watch this process. So let us begin, starting with a session by Intisam, and then Aziz Brown, Yeme Janae, and finally Shantae. This is what our viewers perceive regarding the next major pandemic that will inevitably hit humanity. And after you see all of the sessions for this project, I will return to help pull things together.